The flight begins. The cabin was quiet, save for the gentle hum of the engines as the plane soared toward its destination. Marcus Gaines settled back into his seat, feeling the subtle thrill of flight. Across from him, his 12-year-old son, Elijah, sat with wide, curious eyes, absorbing every detail of their luxurious business-class surroundings. This was a special trip. They were on their way to visit family after a year of Marcus's business trips that kept him away more often than he'd liked. For Marcus, CEO of Skytrax Airlines, this trip was a rare chance to reconnect with his son without the usual interruptions of work. As Elijah sipped his drink, he leaned toward his father. "Is this really all yours, Dad?" he asked, his voice filled with admiration. Marcus chuckled. "All ours, buddy," he said, resting a hand on his son's shoulder. "But the real treasure isn't the airline. It's spending time with you and the family. I know I've been away a lot, but that's going to change." Elijah beamed at him, his eyes lighting up. "I'm just happy we get to see Grandma. She always says I remind her of you when you were my age." Marcus laughed, nodding. "She's not wrong. I used to get into plenty of adventures myself." A short while later, the plane had leveled off, and the quiet hum of the engines created a peaceful atmosphere in the cabin. Elijah, feeling a bit restless, asked if he could stretch his legs. Marcus gave a quick nod, advising him to stay close and not wander too far. Elijah, ever respectful and polite, walked down the aisle carefully, greeting passengers along the way. His polite manners and enthusiasm brought a warm smile to the faces of a few passengers and crew members who waved back. However, he was unaware of the simmering tension that had settled on one particular flight attendant, Vanessa Roberts, who glanced at him with thinly veiled annoyance as he passed by. On his way back from the restroom, Elijah felt a slight shiver as the plane passed through a bit of turbulence. Losing his balance, he stumbled slightly, and a bit of water from his cup splashed onto Vanessa's crisp uniform. Shocked, Elijah immediately apologized, his voice sincere. "I'm so sorry, Mom. I didn't mean to." Vanessa's face darkened as she looked down at the damp patch spreading on her sleeve. Her lips thinned into a hard line. Her tone was sharp, her words clipped. "Watch where you're going," she snapped. "People like you should learn to respect this cabin." Her gaze scanned him from head to toe, her eyes narrowing. "Maybe you're lost. Shouldn't you be in the back?" Elijah's face flushed in embarrassment, and he stammered an apology again, his voice quivering slightly as he tried to explain. "I'm in business class with my dad. I didn't mean to." But Vanessa wasn't listening. She'd made her assumptions, and her voice grew louder. "Business class. With a parent, you say?" Her tone was almost mocking. "Surely you wandered up here by mistake." A few nearby passengers looked up, surprised at the unexpected hostility in her voice. Elijah, unsure how to respond, began to edge away, his usual confidence replaced with uncertainty and hurt. Just as he was about to retreat back to his seat, Vanessa reached out and gripped his arm, her hold firm and unyielding. "You're not going anywhere until we get this straight," she said icily, the prejudice seeping into her tone becoming apparent. A young woman across the aisle gasped softly, exchanging a glance with her husband, who frowned at the scene. Elijah, though holding back tears, met Vanessa's gaze bravely. "Please let go of my arm, Mom," he said softly. "I didn't mean to spill." The sharpness of her grip only tightened, and Vanessa's voice became a harsh whisper. "Spare me the excuses. You think a free upgrade lets you pretend to belong here. I know better." Her words, laced with hurtful assumptions, made Elijah shrink. He wondered if he had done something wrong, though he couldn't understand what it was. Just then, a tall figure emerged down the aisle. Marcus had sensed something was wrong after Elijah didn't return, and the tension radiating from his son's seat was unmistakable. "Is there a problem here?" Marcus's voice was quiet but commanding. His gaze was fixed on Vanessa, his eyes cold and stern. Vanessa, startled, released Elijah's arm and turned, recognizing Marcus at once. Her expression shifted from irritation to apprehension, her mouth slightly open as if trying to find words. "This young man," she began haltingly. He spilled water on me. I thought he might have wandered in here by mistake." Marcus's jaw tightened as he looked down at Elijah, who was rubbing his arm and struggling to hold back tears. Turning his gaze back to Vanessa, he spoke in a controlled, icy tone. "This young man happens to be my son." The emphasis in his words was unmistakable, leaving Vanessa momentarily stunned. The surrounding passengers, now fully aware of the scene, watched with hushed attention. Marcus continued, his tone unwavering. "And this airline is mine as well. I expect my employees to act professionally and treat all our passengers with respect. That includes my son." Vanessa's face turned pale as she realized the gravity of her actions. She opened her mouth to respond, but Marcus held up a hand. "No need to explain," he said, his voice firm. "When we land, please report to the lead flight attendant. Your services will no longer be required with Skytrax Airlines." Vanessa's mouth opened and closed as she tried to process the dismissal, her confidence crumbling. The weight of the situation was now unmistakable, her prejudice exposed in front of the entire cabin. She looked around, seeing the stares of passengers and feeling the quiet condemnation in their eyes. Turning to Elijah, Marcus softened his voice. "Come on, son. Let's get back to our seats." Elijah nodded, relief spreading over his face as he followed his father back to their suite, leaving Vanessa standing alone, her career in shambles. As they settled back in, Marcus put an arm around Elijah, who looked up at him with a mixture of gratitude and lingering sadness. "You stood up for me, Dad," he whispered, his voice filled with a mix of relief and pride. "Always, son," Marcus replied gently, holding him close. "No one has the right to make you feel less than you are. I promise you that." In the hours following the confrontation, as the flight neared its destination, Marcus's mind was already at work. This incident would not go unanswered. He knew he needed to turn this experience into something that would make a difference, not just for Elijah, but for anyone else who had faced unjust treatment. The journey was just beginning, a lesson in accountability. As the plane began its descent, Marcus sat silently, his mind a swirl of thoughts. Elijah had drifted off, his head resting on his father's shoulder. But for Marcus, there would be no peace until he set things right. The anger and hurt on his son's face earlier in the flight kept replaying in his mind, stirring a resolve that only grew stronger as the minutes passed. This wasn't the first time Marcus had encountered prejudice, and he knew that simply firing Vanessa wouldn't be enough. Change needed to happen on a larger scale, not just in his airline, but across the entire industry. This incident was a glaring reminder of the biases that could lurk within people's hearts, even in a job meant to serve and uplift. As they touched down, Marcus gently shook Elijah awake. The boy blinked sleepily, looking up at his father with a small, tentative smile. Marcus managed a reassuring smile in return. "Come on, buddy. Let's get out of here," he said, his tone gentle. They made their way to the terminal, greeted by the bustling energy of the airport. The gleaming floor tiles reflected the overhead lights, creating a vibrant pathway as they walked toward the exit. However, before leaving, Marcus had one more stop to make. He took Elijah's hand and guided him toward the Skytrax corporate office, located just off the terminal. "Dad, are we going to see someone?" Elijah asked, glancing up with curiosity. Marcus nodded, his expression serious. "Yes, we're going to have a talk with a few people. There's something important I want you to see, too." They entered the corporate office, a sleek space with floor-to-ceiling glass walls and a minimalist decor. Marcus's executive assistant, Carla, greeted them with a warm smile, her eyes lighting up when she saw Elijah. "Good to see you, Mr. Gaines," she said, nodding respectfully. Then she bent down to Elijah's level, smiling kindly. "And you too, young man. I hear you had quite the adventure on your flight." Elijah nodded shyly, glancing at his father. "Is everything set up, Carla?" Marcus asked, his tone businesslike but firm. "Yes, sir," Carla replied. "The team is waiting in the conference room." Marcus gave her a nod, then led Elijah down the hallway to the glass-walled room, where several executives and HR representatives were already seated. Vanessa was there too, sitting at the far end of the table, her eyes downcast. The flight attendant's uniform she wore was neatly pressed, but her face held a look of apprehension. She shifted uncomfortably when she saw Marcus and Elijah enter. "Thank you all for coming in on short notice," Marcus began, his voice calm but carrying an unmistakable edge. "I wanted us to meet here today, because this is a matter that cannot be ignored." He looked directly at Vanessa, who avoided his gaze, her eyes fixed on the table. "Vanessa, I want you to understand why we're here," he continued, his voice steady. "This isn't just about one incident. It's about the way you treated my son and the assumptions you made based on his appearance. This kind of behavior has no place in our company, or any company, for that matter." Vanessa finally looked up, her face pale. "Mr. Gaines, I didn't realize. I didn't mean for things to go that far. I thought," she faltered, struggling to find words. Marcus held up a hand, stopping her. "This isn't about excuses. This is about accountability. We're here to make sure that not only you, but everyone in this room, understands the impact of actions like these. Prejudice, discrimination. These are not words we throw around lightly. They carry weight, and they hurt people." Elijah sat quietly beside his father, watching the exchange with wide eyes. Although he was young, he could feel the tension and understood the gravity of the situation. "Vanessa," Marcus continued, his gaze steady, "Skytrax has a responsibility to ensure that all passengers feel safe, respected, and valued. What you did today undermined that commitment. I'm giving you a choice: resign now and leave, or agree to undergo a full training program, including diversity and sensitivity workshops, and commit to mentoring under our lead attendant for a full year. But understand this, there will be no room for error moving forward." Vanessa's hands trembled as she clasped them in front of her. "I'll take the training, sir," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I want to learn. I never meant to hurt anyone." Marcus nodded, his expression firm. "Actions speak louder than words. I hope you truly understand the importance of what you're agreeing to." He then looked around the room, addressing the other executives. "Let this be a reminder for all of us. From now on, I want comprehensive diversity and sensitivity training to be part of every employee's onboarding. Not just a single session, but an ongoing program that fosters understanding and empathy." The executives murmured their agreement, their faces solemn as they absorbed Marcus's words. As the meeting adjourned, Marcus placed a hand on Elijah's shoulder and guided him toward the exit. Outside the conference room, he knelt down to his son's eye level. "Do you understand why I wanted you here?" he asked softly, his tone gentle but serious. Elijah nodded. "You wanted her to know that what she did wasn't right, and that it's not okay to treat people badly, no matter who they are." Marcus smiled, pride shining in his eyes. "Exactly. We have to stand up for what's right, even if it's hard. And we have to teach people how to do better too." Elijah smiled, leaning in to hug his father. "Thanks for standing up for me, Dad." The next day, Marcus arranged a special meeting at Skytrax headquarters to implement his vision for change. Every employee, from executives to flight attendants, would participate in quarterly workshops on diversity and inclusion. Marcus believed in a culture of respect and empathy, and he was determined to make it a defining part of Skytrax's identity. He also set up a scholarship fund in Elijah's name, aimed at supporting underprivileged youth who wanted to pursue careers in aviation. "This way, Elijah," he explained, "we're not just addressing the issue with one person. We're creating opportunities for people who may face the same challenges you did." As the new program rolled out across the airline, the impact became visible almost immediately. Flight attendants, pilots, and ground staff participated in the workshops, each person confronting and reflecting on their own biases. Some were resistant at first, but as they heard stories and testimonials, many began to see things from a new perspective. One afternoon, Marcus received a letter in his office mailbox. It was from Vanessa, handwritten in careful, looping script. She had completed the first module of her training and wanted to thank Marcus for the opportunity to learn. "Mr. Gaines," she wrote, "I have no excuses for what I did, but I am grateful for this second chance. The training sessions have opened my eyes in ways I never imagined. I met people who shared their stories, and it's given me a lot to think about. I want to do better, and I want to be a part of making Skytrax a safe space for everyone." Marcus read the letter carefully, a faint smile crossing his face. Elijah happened to walk into the room as Marcus finished reading. "Is that from her?" Elijah asked, noticing the name at the bottom of the letter. Marcus nodded, folding the paper and setting it aside. "It is. She's learning, just like we hoped." Elijah smiled, pride evident in his eyes. "Good. Maybe next time she'll remember to treat people better." Marcus ruffled Elijah's hair. "That's the goal, buddy. And because of you, we're one step closer to making the world a little kinder." Elijah beamed, and Marcus felt a profound sense of purpose settle over him. He had taken a difficult situation and turned it into an opportunity for growth, not just for his family, but for the entire company. He knew there was more work to do, but he was ready for it. And with Elijah by his side, he felt stronger than ever. In the weeks that followed, Skytrax gained a reputation for its commitment to inclusion and its dedication to providing a safe, welcoming environment for every passenger. And though the journey had been challenging, Marcus knew it was only the beginning of a new legacy, one built on understanding, respect, and above all, compassion. Building a legacy of change. The weeks following the incident transformed Marcus's approach to leadership at Skytrax. Determined to make the airline an industry leader in inclusivity, he personally oversaw the implementation of new policies, ensuring they were more than just a checkbox on a corporate agenda. Every employee, from cabin crew to executives, was expected to participate fully, and Marcus made it a point to attend the first few sessions himself, setting an example. For Elijah, life had returned to normal. He was back in school, regaling his friends with tales of his recent trip, carefully omitting the troubling incident with the flight attendant. Marcus hadn't told him yet, but Elijah would soon be making another appearance at Skytrax, this time as the guest of honor for a groundbreaking initiative that would bear his name. Meanwhile, Vanessa Roberts, the flight attendant at the center of the incident, was deep into her mandatory training. She had accepted Marcus's conditions with trepidation, but as she attended each workshop, her resistance began to falter. The sessions brought her face to face with people she'd unconsciously held biases against. The stories they shared challenged her views in ways she hadn't anticipated. One session, in particular, hit her hard. A former airline worker, a middle-aged man named Howard, shared his story of being wrongly accused of theft on a previous job simply because of his race. He spoke about the humiliation of being dragged through an investigation and the subsequent damage to his career. Listening to him, Vanessa's defenses crumbled. She couldn't shake the shame she felt as she realized her actions toward Elijah had been rooted in assumptions just as harmful. A family meeting at Skytrax. Back at Skytrax headquarters, Marcus was preparing to unveil his new scholarship initiative to the board. Named the Elijah Gaines Scholarship for Equality in Aviation, it would offer financial support to young people from underrepresented backgrounds who wish to pursue a career in aviation. Marcus invited Elijah to join him at the launch, wanting his son to understand the lasting impact of their experience. When Marcus told Elijah about the scholarship, the boy's eyes lit up with pride. "Wow, Dad, so this is going to help kids like me learn about flying?" Elijah asked, his excitement barely contained. "Exactly, son," Marcus replied, ruffling his hair. "We want everyone to have the same chance to be a part of this industry. and you're a big part of making that happen. The day of the launch, the Skytrax conference room was filled with employees, board members, and press. A large banner hung above the podium, announcing the scholarship in bold letters, with Elijah's name prominently displayed. The young boy stood beside his father, a bit nervous but smiling as cameras flashed and reporters took notes. Marcus stepped up to the podium and began his speech. Today, we're here to do more than launch a scholarship. We're here to create a future where every young person, regardless of race or background, can dream of the skies and know that they belong up there. The Elijah Gaines Scholarship for Equality in Aviation is not only a tribute to my son, who inspired this change, but to everyone who has ever faced prejudice and kept pushing forward. At Skytrax, we are committed to making sure that our values reflect equality, dignity, and respect. The room filled with applause as Marcus turned to Elijah, who was beaming with pride. He gently nudged his son toward the microphone. Elijah cleared his throat, looking out at the crowd. "Thank you," he began, his voice steady. "My dad always says that everyone deserves a chance to follow their dreams, and I'm happy to know that this scholarship will help kids like me, so no one has to feel left out. I hope that everyone who gets this scholarship can have the chance to see the world and make it a better place." The applause grew louder, and Marcus wrapped his arm around Elijah's shoulders, feeling the deep sense of accomplishment. But as he scanned the room, his gaze landed on someone standing in the back, a woman with a subdued expression and a Skytrax uniform. It was Vanessa. Vanessa's journey to understanding. As the weeks passed, Vanessa continued to work her shifts, but the experience on that fateful flight and the following training sessions lingered in her mind. Her interactions with passengers had shifted subtly. She was more attentive, more patient, and aware of her assumptions. She'd even had a few heartfelt conversations with colleagues who had shared experiences of prejudice. For the first time, Vanessa was beginning to understand the significance of the moment she had wrongfully berated Elijah. After her shift one evening, Vanessa was invited by the head of HR, Renee Phillips, to discuss the possibility of a new role within the company. Vanessa entered the office with a mix of nerves and hope, eager to understand what her future at Skytrax would look like. "Vanessa," Renee began, her tone gentle, "we've been impressed by your commitment to growth these past weeks. You've shown us that you're willing to learn and improve. We'd like to offer you a chance to lead the new training program for other employees. This role would mean helping others understand the importance of empathy, inclusion, and equality." Vanessa's eyes widened. She hadn't expected this offer, especially after what had happened. "You mean, you want me to teach others?" she asked, barely able to believe it. "Yes," Renee confirmed, smiling. "Who better to help others understand the consequences of their actions than someone who's walked through it? It won't be easy, and it will take courage, but we believe in second chances, and we believe you can make a difference." For the first time since the incident, Vanessa felt a glimmer of redemption. She knew it would take time to fully atone for her mistake, but she was ready to try. "I accept," she said, her voice filled with determination. "I want to do this right." A new beginning. Months passed, and the scholarship program quickly gained traction, with hundreds of applications pouring in from young people across the country. Many of these applicants came from communities that had previously been underrepresented in aviation, and the scholarship represented more than just financial support. It was a pathway to their dreams. Vanessa, now in her new role as Skytrax's diversity training coordinator, began leading workshops across the company, meeting with employees of all levels. Her sessions focused on empathy, on seeing each individual as a human with a story and aspirations of their own. At the end of each workshop, Vanessa shared her own story, admitting her mistakes and explaining what she had learned through her journey. Her honesty and vulnerability inspired many employees to reflect on their own biases, sparking conversations that were long overdue. One afternoon, during a session in a bustling New York office, Vanessa noticed a young man with a familiar face sitting among the participants. She paused, recognizing Elijah, who was attending the workshop as part of his father's continued efforts to involve him in Skytrax's transformation. After the session ended, Elijah approached Vanessa, his face warm but curious. "Hi, Ms. Roberts," he said, his voice filled with the same politeness that had touched her so many months before. "Hello, Elijah," Vanessa replied, a bit nervous but genuinely moved. "Thank you for coming." Elijah smiled, nodding. "Dad told me that you're helping a lot of people now. I think that's cool." Vanessa looked at him, a lump forming in her throat. "Elijah, I can't tell you how sorry I am for what I did. And I'm so grateful that your family gave me a chance to make things right." Elijah nodded, his expression thoughtful. "Everyone makes mistakes, Ms. Roberts, but what matters is that we learn from them." His words were simple but struck her deeply. It was a lesson she had taken months to fully understand, but hearing it from him made it feel complete. A legacy of kindness. As the scholarship program grew, Skytrax became known not only for its excellent service, but also for its commitment to social responsibility. The airline's diversity and inclusion initiatives were praised by media outlets, and other companies in the industry began to adopt similar programs, inspired by Skytrax's efforts. Under Marcus's leadership, the airline began sponsoring events promoting inclusivity in the aviation industry, creating internship programs, and even setting up community outreach programs in underprivileged areas to spark interest in aviation careers among young people. Elijah, too, became a symbol of hope and resilience, frequently attending scholarship events with his father and encouraging young recipients. The scholarship changed lives, offering opportunities for young people from all backgrounds to join an industry that had often seemed inaccessible. On the one-year anniversary of the scholarship's founding, Skytrax held a grand celebration. Elijah, now more confident and poised, stood beside Marcus as they addressed a crowd filled with scholarship recipients, industry leaders, and Skytrax employees. "Today," Marcus announced, "we celebrate not just an initiative, but a vision for the future, a future where every child, no matter where they come from, can see themselves among the clouds, reaching for their dreams." The crowd erupted into applause as Elijah took the microphone, his voice steady and filled with purpose. "We've come a long way," Elijah said, glancing at his father with a smile. "And I hope that this is just the beginning of something even bigger, a world where everyone belongs." As father and son stood together, surrounded by a room filled with people from all walks of life, Marcus knew they had done more than create a scholarship. They had built a legacy that would outlast them both, a legacy of compassion, resilience, and the power to make a difference. A new chapter for Skytrax. As the success of the Elijah Gaines Scholarship rippled through the industry, Marcus felt the weight of responsibility grow. The program was no longer just a tribute to his son, but a movement that was opening doors for hundreds of young people. Skytrax was thriving, and the airline's commitment to inclusion had made it a leader in the field. Other airlines were taking notice, implementing similar programs, and Marcus saw an opportunity to set an even higher standard. He spent his days in back-to-back meetings with educators, industry leaders, and social advocates, each conversation inspiring him with new ideas on how to push the mission further. One morning, as he reviewed applications for the scholarship's upcoming round, he came across a letter that stopped him in his tracks. The letter was from a high school senior named Zoe Martinez, a young woman from a low-income neighborhood in the Bronx. She shared her dreams of becoming a pilot, explaining that her fascination with planes had started as a child. Every day after school, she would take the subway to LaGuardia Airport, standing just outside the observation deck to watch the planes take off and land. "I'd always believed that flying was for other people," she wrote. "People who grew up in places with big houses and nice schools. But then I heard about this scholarship, and it made me think that maybe I could belong up there too. I want to fly not just for myself, but for everyone who's ever felt like the sky was out of reach." Marcus sat back, absorbing her words. He knew that this was exactly the kind of dream the scholarship was meant to support. Zoe's application was approved, and Marcus made a note to meet her personally. Inspired by her story, he began brainstorming ways to extend the program even further, to reach young people who had never even considered a career in aviation. Vanessa's role expands. Meanwhile, Vanessa had become a pivotal part of Skytrax's transformation. Her commitment to leading the diversity workshops was stronger than ever, and she began traveling to different Skytrax locations to run sessions with new hires and veteran employees alike. Her own journey from prejudice to empathy became a cornerstone of her teaching, and over time, Vanessa grew into an effective, respected figure within the company. During one of her workshops, Vanessa noticed a young woman sitting quietly in the back of the room, her posture tense, her face partially obscured by the brim of a baseball cap. She seemed disengaged, barely making eye contact with anyone. After the session, Vanessa approached her, gently introducing herself. The woman, whose name was Tasha, admitted she was skeptical of the training. "I'm here because my manager signed me up," she said with a shrug. "Honestly, I don't think these workshops change anything. People don't change because of a couple of feel-good stories." Vanessa didn't argue but instead shared her own experience, explaining how she had once held biases herself and had been given the chance to change. Tasha listened, her expression softening as Vanessa spoke. By the end of their conversation, Tasha agreed to give the workshops a genuine effort. In the weeks that followed, Tasha not only participated fully in the training, but became one of the program's biggest advocates, sharing her own experiences and helping others recognize the importance of empathy. Vanessa was thrilled to see how someone who had once doubted the value of change had become a catalyst for it. The impact of Vanessa's work soon caught Marcus's attention. He invited her to his office one afternoon to discuss her progress, genuinely interested in hearing how the workshops were resonating with employees. "Vanessa, I've been reading the reports," he said as they sat across from each other in his spacious office. "It seems the program is reaching people in ways we hadn't even anticipated, and it's largely because of your leadership." Vanessa nodded, humbled. "Thank you, Mr. Gaines. It's been a journey, to say the least, but I can't take all the credit. The people who come to these sessions, they bring their own stories, their own struggles. I just try to create a space for them to open up and connect with one another." Marcus leaned forward, his expression thoughtful. "I think it's time we expand this program beyond Skytrax," he said. "I want to create a national initiative, something that can reach every airline, every airport. Imagine if this level of empathy and understanding was standard across the industry." Vanessa's eyes widened, excitement replacing her usual reserved demeanor. "A national program. I mean, that would be incredible. But how would we even start?" Marcus smiled. "With people like you leading the way, I'll make some calls, connect with other CEOs, and see who's interested. This won't happen overnight, but I believe it's possible, and I want you to be at the forefront." Introducing FlightPath, the National Empathy Initiative. Within months, Marcus's vision became a reality. Partnering with several major airlines and industry organizations, Skytrax launched FlightPath, the National Empathy Initiative, a program designed to standardize empathy and diversity training across the aviation industry. The program would be offered not only to airline staff, but also to airport security personnel, customer service agents, and even executives. Its mission was clear: to create an aviation culture rooted in respect, understanding, and equal opportunity. The initiative's debut event was held in Washington, D.C., attracting media attention and an audience of industry leaders. Marcus gave the keynote speech, sharing the story of how a single incident with his son had sparked a movement toward change. "Each one of us," Marcus said, his voice strong yet warm, "has the power to change someone's day, someone's life, simply by showing kindness and respect. This industry connects the world, and it's our duty to ensure that everyone, regardless of background, feels welcome and safe in that journey." Vanessa also spoke at the event, sharing her own experience and how the incident had transformed her understanding of her role as a flight attendant. Her story resonated with many in the audience, including high-ranking officials who approached her afterward, thanking her for her honesty and courage. By the end of the event, Flight Path had gained dozens of new supporters, with airlines and airports pledging to adopt the program. The momentum was building, and Marcus felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that his efforts were creating a lasting legacy. Zoe's dream takes flight. Months passed, and Zoe Martinez's journey with Skytrax began. As the newest recipient of the Elijah Gaines Scholarship, she started her training to become a pilot, her excitement growing with each passing day. Marcus had arranged for her to intern at Skytrax's headquarters, where she would shadow experienced pilots and attend technical workshops. One evening, Marcus invited Zoe to his office for a casual conversation, wanting to hear how her experience was going. Zoe arrived with a bright smile, her excitement palpable. "Mr. Gaines, I can't thank you enough for this opportunity," she said as she settled into a chair. "Every day feels like a dream. I get to learn from people who've been flying for years. I even sat in the cockpit for a takeoff last week." Marcus chuckled. "I'm glad to hear you're enjoying it. But remember, this isn't just about flying. It's about changing perceptions. You have a voice, Zoe, one that can inspire others like you who might not have thought aviation was possible." Zoe nodded, her expression turning serious. "I know. And I want to use this opportunity to give back. I actually have an idea, if it's okay to share." Marcus leaned forward, intrigued. "Of course. I'd love to hear it." Zoe took a breath, her cheeks flushing slightly with excitement. "I was thinking, what if we created a mentorship program for high school students who are interested in aviation? We could partner with schools in underserved communities, bring students to the airport, show them around, and maybe even let them try out a flight simulator. I think it could make a real difference." Marcus listened intently, impressed by her initiative. "That's an incredible idea, Zoe, and I'd be more than happy to help you make it happen. We can start by reaching out to local schools and setting up pilot sessions." Zoe's face lit up with joy. "Thank you, Mr. Gaines. I can't wait to get started." Taking the legacy forward. Within a year, Zoe's mentorship program, named Wings of Tomorrow, was officially launched. The program brought hundreds of students from underrepresented backgrounds to Skytrax facilities, where they learned about careers in aviation and participated in hands-on activities. Zoe herself became a mentor, guiding students through flight simulations and sharing her story of determination. The first Wings of Tomorrow event was a resounding success. Students, many of whom had never been inside an airport, were captivated by the experience. Watching their faces light up, Marcus and Elijah, who had accompanied him to the event, felt an overwhelming sense of pride. Elijah, now a year older and wiser, leaned over to his father as they watched Zoe interact with the students. "Dad, do you think they'll remember this day?" Marcus nodded, a soft smile on his face. "I think they'll remember it for the rest of their lives. And they'll know that they have a place in this world, no matter what anyone else says." As the event came to a close, Marcus took a moment to reflect. What had started as a painful experience had blossomed into something far greater, a legacy of compassion, opportunity, and unity. He knew that Skytrax, under his leadership, would continue to be a force for good, setting an example for the entire industry. And as he watched Elijah laugh and talk with the students, Marcus felt a profound sense of gratitude. He had not only protected his son's dignity that day on the plane, but he had also given him, and countless others, the gift of knowing they belonged. The future was bright, and it stretched out before them like the open sky, boundless and full of promise, rising above the clouds. With Wings of Tomorrow in full swing, the Skytrax headquarters was buzzing with new faces and fresh energy. The program was attracting attention nationwide, and students from diverse backgrounds were gaining hands-on experience in aviation. The enthusiasm was contagious, spilling over into the work culture at Skytrax as employees volunteered to mentor, give tours, and offer career guidance. But Marcus wasn't done yet. He saw this as only the beginning. He envisioned taking the mentorship program global, offering internships and scholarships to young people around the world who had the drive, but not the resources to pursue a career in aviation. To kickstart the initiative, he began reaching out to international airlines, forming alliances with CEOs who were inspired by his mission. His efforts eventually culminated in a partnership with the United Nations International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, establishing Wings of Tomorrow as a pilot program in select countries, with a goal of expanding across continents. One of the first countries on the list was Kenya, where Marcus had organized a team to work with local schools and universities to create pathways for young people interested in aviation. Partnering with local airlines and government officials, Skytrax began offering internships and scholarship opportunities that would give Kenyan students access to an education and career in aviation, something that had often felt unattainable for many. Elijah, now fully invested in the project, began asking his father if he could join him on these trips to meet the students and help run the workshops. Marcus, recognizing Elijah's growing maturity and passion for the program, agreed, seeing this as a chance for his son to gain a global perspective on their mission. A visit to Kenya. The trip to Kenya was a milestone moment for both Marcus and Elijah. Upon landing at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, they were greeted by a group of Skytrax representatives, along with local officials, and a crowd of young students who had been eagerly awaiting their arrival. The warm, welcoming smiles and excited chatter filled Marcus with a sense of purpose and pride. "Dad, this is amazing," Elijah whispered, his eyes wide with wonder. He could hardly believe the scale of what his father had created. Hundreds of students were lined up to meet him and hear his story. As they made their way through the crowd, a young girl approached Elijah shyly. She was around his age, wearing a neatly pressed school uniform and holding a small handwritten letter. She extended it to him, her eyes filled with admiration. "Hello, Elijah," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "My name is Amina. I wanted to give you this." She glanced down, her cheeks flushing. Elijah accepted the letter with a warm smile, intrigued. "Thank you, Amina. Are you interested in flying?" Amina nodded, her excitement shining through her initial shyness. "I want to be a pilot one day, like the people in your program. I used to think it was impossible, but then I heard about Wings of Tomorrow. My teacher told me that there are people like you and your father who believe in us." A new vision. As the success of Wings of Tomorrow grew, Marcus began to consider the next step. He envisioned an aviation academy, a physical space where young people could come to learn, train, and grow within a supportive environment. The academy would offer programs in everything from piloting to engineering, from air traffic control to customer service, creating a holistic approach to education in aviation. He shared his vision with Elijah, who was now more invested in the future of Skytrax than ever. "An academy?" Elijah asked, his eyes lighting up. "That would be amazing, Dad. Think of all the people who could learn there." Marcus nodded, his mind racing with ideas. "It's not just about teaching skills, Elijah. It's about creating a space where everyone feels like they belong, where people from all backgrounds can come together to share knowledge and experiences." The academy, Marcus decided, would be located in a central city with easy access to international flights, ensuring that students from around the world could attend. He envisioned a campus filled with state-of-the-art flight simulators, classrooms, and dormitories, creating a world-class facility that would set the standard for aviation education. With the support of investors and partners, Marcus began the process of making the academy a reality. Plans were drawn up, partnerships formed, and within a year, construction began on what would become the Global Aviation Academy, a place where dreams would take flight, a physical manifestation of Marcus's commitment to creating a future of inclusion and opportunity. The future unfolds. As the academy neared completion, Marcus reflected on how much had changed since that day on the plane with Elijah. What had started as a painful, unjust experience had blossomed into something extraordinary, a movement that was changing lives, building bridges, and reshaping an entire industry. On the opening day of the Global Aviation Academy, Marcus stood beside Elijah, looking out at the crowd of students, families, and dignitaries who had come to witness the beginning of a new era in aviation. The air was filled with excitement and hope as Marcus stepped up to the podium to deliver the opening speech. Today, he began, his voice filled with emotion. We are not just opening a school. We are opening doors, breaking down barriers, and creating a future where every child, every dream, has a place in the sky. The applause was thunderous, and as Marcus looked over at Elijah, he saw the pride shining in his son's eyes. Together, they had built something truly remarkable, a legacy of hope, resilience, and boundless opportunity. As the students entered the academy for the first time, Elijah turned to his father, a smile spreading across his face. We did it, Dad. Marcus placed a hand on his son's shoulder, his heart full. Yes, Elijah, we did. And this is just the beginning. With the academy's doors now open, the future stretched out before them, a vast, open sky filled with promise. Taking flight, the Global Aviation Academy was officially open, and its state-of-the-art campus quickly became a vibrant hub of activity. With students arriving from across the world, the academy had become a melting pot of cultures, backgrounds, and dreams. Young people who had once only fantasized about a career in aviation were now walking the halls of an institution built to nurture their ambitions, a testament to Marcus's vision and commitment to inclusion. The academy was more than just a school. It was a community. Classes ranged from piloting and aeronautics to aircraft maintenance, engineering, and air traffic control. The diverse curriculum allowed students to discover the many facets of the aviation industry, opening doors to paths they had never considered. State-of-the-art simulators, advanced engineering labs, and fully equipped hangars gave the students hands-on experience, bringing their dreams to life with every lesson. Elijah, now a teenager, played an active role at the academy, volunteering as a mentor and guide. Having grown up with the program, he felt deeply connected to the academy's mission. It was here that he had seen his own life change, and now he wanted to be part of that journey for others. An unexpected guest. One afternoon, while overseeing an orientation for a new group of students, Elijah was approached by a young woman he didn't recognize. She was dressed in simple clothes, her gaze respectful yet determined. "Hello, Elijah." She greeted him warmly, her voice gentle but steady. "My name is Vanessa Roberts. I don't know if you remember me." Elijah blinked, surprise flickering across his face as he recognized her. It was the flight attendant from that flight years ago. Time had softened the hardness he'd once seen in her expression, and now, standing before him, she seemed transformed, her eyes humble, her demeanor sincere. "I remember you," Elijah replied, his voice even, though a mix of curiosity and caution lingered. "What brings you here?" Vanessa took a deep breath, a faint smile touching her lips. "I wanted to see the academy for myself. I've heard so much about it, and I've followed the program since the beginning. I know I made a terrible mistake years ago, and I'm so grateful your family gave me the chance to learn and grow from it. I wanted to see firsthand what that chance has created." Elijah nodded, feeling the strange mix of emotions, closure, forgiveness, and understanding. He realized, in that moment, how far they had both come since that fateful day. Seeing her here felt like an important step in completing the journey they had each taken toward empathy and growth. "Would you like a tour?" Elijah offered, his voice softening. Vanessa's eyes brightened, and she nodded gratefully. As they walked through the academy, she listened attentively as Elijah described the various programs, each one aimed at breaking down barriers and fostering inclusivity. They visited the simulation labs, where students practiced takeoffs and landings, and the engineering department, where students worked on aircraft engines under the guidance of experienced mentors. "This place is incredible," Vanessa murmured as they walked through a corridor lined with photographs of scholarship recipients from around the world. "Your family has changed so many lives." Elijah nodded, feeling the weight of her words. "It's not just about us anymore. It's about everyone who's part of this. We're building something bigger than any one person, something that lasts." Vanessa smiled, and for the first time, Elijah saw genuine pride in her eyes. "Thank you, Elijah," she said quietly, "for giving me the chance to see this. I hope in some small way I can continue to help. If there's anything I can do, please let me know." Elijah looked at her thoughtfully. "Actually, there might be something," he said, an idea forming in his mind. "We're always looking for people who understand the value of empathy and inclusion. If you're interested, maybe you could help mentor some of the students, especially those pursuing cabin crew and customer service roles. Your journey could inspire them." Vanessa's face softened, gratitude filling her expression. "I'd be honored," she replied, her voice full of conviction. "Thank you for trusting me." Growing pains and triumphs. As the academy continued to grow, so did the challenges. Running an institution of this scale required constant attention and innovation. The diverse student body meant that every day brought a new set of opportunities to address misunderstandings, encourage dialogue, and promote unity. One of the biggest challenges arose when a group of students from different backgrounds had a misunderstanding that escalated into a conflict. The students, representing various nationalities and ethnicities, had been placed on a team project, but tensions quickly rose over differing ideas and approaches. Marcus, ever the visionary, saw this as a teachable moment. He gathered the students and organized a workshop centered around communication and conflict resolution, led by Vanessa and a few seasoned professionals. During the workshop, the students shared their perspectives, slowly learning to appreciate the unique viewpoints each person brought to the table. By the end, what had once been a divided group was now a cohesive team, their conflict transformed into a bond of mutual respect and understanding. This experience taught Marcus and Elijah that building a diverse and inclusive institution wasn't a one-time achievement, but a continuous journey. They realized that while the academy had grown rapidly, it was essential to focus on nurturing a culture of empathy, understanding, and patience. A global impact. As the years passed, the Global Aviation Academy became a beacon of hope and opportunity. News of its success spread internationally, with several countries reaching out to replicate its model. Marcus's partnerships with airlines and educational organizations expanded, and soon, campuses began popping up in Europe, Asia, and Latin America. Each new branch was tailored to meet the needs of its local community, fostering a sense of global unity and cooperation within the aviation industry. Elijah, now a young man with ambitions of his own, played an instrumental role in helping establish these international campuses. He had grown into a natural leader, his experiences and values shaped by the journey his family had undertaken. His commitment to the academy and its mission became his calling, and he decided to pursue a degree in international relations, hoping to bring an even broader perspective to the academy's future. During a visit to the academy's new campus in Brazil, Elijah met students who had traveled from rural towns and cities across the country to attend. Listening to their stories, he was reminded of Amina, Zoe, and so many others who had been given the opportunity to chase their dreams through the academy. Each story was a testament to the academy's impact and the life-changing power of opportunity. Honoring a legacy. One summer evening, Skytrax hosted a grand gala in New York City to celebrate the 10-year anniversary of the Elijah Gaines Scholarship and the Academy's remarkable journey. The event was attended by alumni, industry leaders, international dignitaries, and countless students whose lives had been changed by the program. Marcus, now older but as driven as ever, stood alongside Elijah, who was poised to take on an even greater role within Skytrax in the coming years. During his speech, Marcus recounted the origins of the scholarship, taking the audience back to that day on the plane and the difficult but transformative journey that followed. He spoke of the challenges, the triumphs, and the countless lives touched by the Academy's mission. "As I look around this room," Marcus said, his voice filled with emotion, "I see more than just students and graduates. I see dreamers, leaders, and pioneers who are building a brighter future for all of us. What began as a father's wish to protect his son has grown into a legacy that belongs to each of you. This academy, this scholarship, is not just our story, it's yours." The audience rose in a standing ovation, their applause thunderous and filled with gratitude. Elijah looked at his father, admiration shining in his eyes. After the speech, alumni and students gathered around Marcus and Elijah, eager to share how the academy had shaped their lives. One of the alumni, a young woman named Priya, now a commercial pilot, stepped forward with tears in her eyes. "I wouldn't be here today without the Elijah Gaines Scholarship," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "You gave me a chance to break free from the limitations I once thought were impossible. You showed me that I belonged, and now I get to show others the same." Marcus and Elijah were deeply moved, realizing that the Academy's legacy was far greater than they had ever imagined. It was a living testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the boundless possibilities that could emerge from empathy and understanding. A sky full of stars. As the evening drew to a close, Marcus and Elijah stepped out onto the terrace, the lights of the city twinkling below them like stars. The journey they had embarked on together had changed them both, shaping their lives and the lives of countless others in ways they could never have foreseen. "Dad," Elijah said softly, looking out at the city, "do you ever wonder where we'd be if that day on the plane had never happened?" Marcus smiled, his gaze thoughtful. "I do, son, and I know that it would have been a very different path. But I believe everything happened for a reason. Sometimes, adversity is what drives us to make the greatest changes." Elijah nodded, understanding the truth in his father's words. They had faced pain and prejudice, but they had used that experience to build something extraordinary, an institution that stood for inclusion, opportunity, and hope. The academy was more than just a school. It was a symbol of resilience, of dreams turned into reality. As they stood there, a plane flew overhead, its lights cutting through the night sky. Elijah looked up, a sense of pride swelling in his chest. "We've done something amazing, haven't we?" he said, a quiet smile on his face. Marcus wrapped an arm around his son's shoulders, his heart full. "Yes, Elijah, we have. And remember, this legacy isn't just ours. It belongs to everyone who believes in it and carries it forward." With the city below them and the stars above, they knew that the journey was far from over. The Global Aviation Academy, the scholarship, and the programs they had built would continue to uplift and inspire generations to come. And as they gazed at the vast sky, a sky filled with possibility, they knew that they had created something timeless, a legacy that would soar forever, carried by the dreams of those who believed in it. For in the boundless sky, there was room for everyone.